Thursday, October 26th at 10:36 a.m. Could we have a roll call, please?
Member Neville? Here. Member Biazzi?
Here.
Member Landsberg?
Here.
Member Provenza?
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. Okay, next we have consider the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Chair, just because we have somebody online, could we, if we'll do a roll call on
Okay.
every vote, that'll help.
Okay. Do we need to redo that one with a roll call?
Yeah, let's have the clerk do the roll call if that's okay.
Member Neville? Aye. Member Biazzi?
Aye.
Member Landsberg?
Aye.
Member Provenza?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, we move on to public comment. This is opportunity for members of the public to address the Animal Services Planning Agency on subjects related to this agency that are not otherwise on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience in the room first? Can you come up to the podium so we can have you on the camera? Thank you.
Hi, Member Provenza. Thank you for joining us remotely. I just want to say thank you. Stephanie's not here. And to John, I know that we've made some real progress on spays and neuters, not as much as we need to. But I want everyone to know how much those of us that are working with the animals appreciate that. And we just need to keep pushing forward. But I just want to acknowledge how hard everyone has worked to make that happen. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
What was your name? Lisa Gaines. Oh, Lisa. Oh, you know, the one with the, yeah.
Good morning. My name is Leah Rosenberg. About 6 years ago, a number of Yolo County residents formed a 501c3 called Unleashing the Possibilities, or as we call it, UTP. I am secretary of this great group. We are advocates for animals, and our goal is to raise private money to help the county build a new animal shelter. All of us on this committee care very much about the animals that we have already, so much that we have already raised over a six-figure amount in our bank account. All of this has come through private donations. Even though the county has not yet committed to a new shelter, our current animal shelter is old and falling apart. Yes, the staff and volunteers have been upgrading the animal shelter as best they could with new roof, paving roads, and better facilities for the animals. I commend this JPA. You are the solution. I commend all the cities involved, Davis, Woodland, West Sacramento, and Winters, for being at the table with the county. Working together, we will provide better services and will save money in the long run. For example, a well-planned spay and neuter program will reduce all the stray animals that are wandering around our communities. Let's work together to bring a state-of-the-art modern animal shelter to this county. There are thousands of animal lovers in our county and tens of thousands of pet owners. We are watching and hoping that things will move along soon.
Thank you.
Morning, JPA members. My name is Eileen Sametz. I have been involved in animal welfare issues for a while. I worked at VMTH for 35 years as a clinical microbiologist. I've been doing Mercer Clinic for the Pets to Homeless for about 28 years. I've been volunteering since I've retired with Yolo SPCA, and I'm on the board of UTP. So I have seen the problem from different aspects, and it's serious and it needs to be addressed. It's been over 10 years. There's been outreach for upgrading and helping add more staffing, facilities, expansion, and yet it just has not happened. And there's some reasons like the pandemic and whatever. But at the same time, the problem has multiplied because particularly the spay and neuter suspension of low cost spay and neuter has caused, you know, a massive increase of not only domestic pets, but also feral pets. I do trap and release, so I know that pitching very well. So anyway, I implore this agency to please help us move forward. I want to welcome the new members, which I haven't met in person yet, but particularly our Mayor Martha. Thank you for joining. This is a very, you know, it's a huge threshold that you're at the table as well. And we are very, very grateful for you to be here. So, and also Winters, every representative here and council member and Neville for volunteering. So we just thank all of you, women representatives. Thank you all.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience in the room? Seeing none, anyone online?
Yes, Chair, we have Amy Hanna.
Amy, go ahead.
That's
Looks like she dropped me 1 second.
got Evelyn Dale on.
There's.
Now we have both.
Yep, sorry, here we go. Hello? This is
Hello.
Amy Hanna. I am owner of Above and Beyond Home and Animal Services, a pet sitting business, sole proprietor in Davis. I want to reiterate what Leah and Eileen have said, and also just add that many people come to me because I am very active on Nextdoor, and I am also the admin of Good Neighbors of Davis, and they know I'm in the animal community, and they come to me with every known animal question and problem that arises. Most of all, where can I get my animal spayed and neutered? And, you know, having to tell them that they might be able to get 1 cat in per day at Saks SPCA if they show up at 12:30 a.m. and sleep in their car until they open the gate is just really not a good option. And I want to just reiterate also that I really appreciate what everyone is doing at the shelter and for the shelter. And I want to do a special welcome to the West Sac representative that we are really grateful that you're finally on board. And, you know, we're really looking forward to work collaboratively for all of the county, you know, all of the cities and all of the county that for all the animals that don't have a voice. Thank you.
Thank you. We have any more online?
Yes, the next speaker is Evelyn Dell.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. My name, of course, is Evelyn Dale. I am an animal advocate. It had been so for many years in Yolo County. And I am also on board member of the Unleashing the Possibilities, or UTP. First, I would like some of the other people have mentioned, I'd really like to say how good it is that the West Sacramento City has joined Yolo County Animal Services, JPA. West Sacramento is an important part of the solution, to animal sheltering in Yolo County. Second, I would like to urge once again the importance of building a new animal shelter. Yolo County is growing, and so are the needs of our citizens and their animals. It's time for this Yolo County Animal Services Planning Agency to commit to moving forward and bring Yolo County Animal Services into the 21st century with funding for facility improvements, staffing, and services. Finally, I would appreciate it if the minutes of JPA meetings for this JPA be shared with the general public in some way. I don't know how that could be done, but it would be nice if you could do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Have any more online comments?
Yes, we have Allison Ellman.
Go ahead.
I just want to say that I live in Davis right now. My name's Allison, but I lived in the Bay Area when the new Berkeley shelter was planned and built, and it seemed incredibly hard and overwhelming to do it, but a very small group of individuals got together in the beginning and started a campaign, and they got it done. So I just, I helped out with that, and I'm hoping that here in Yolo County, you can replicate and do it even better than they did it in Berkeley. Thanks.
Thank you. More?
There are no additional hands raised, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes.
I just wanted to let you know we did receive written comments
Okay.
and that we'll go ahead and place them in the record. We received written comments from Ann Kokolis, Cindy Schneider, Dr. Giuliani Chang, and Nikki Baumrind.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the public comment. Move on to the consent agenda. Yes.
I'm so sorry, a hand just went up. Do you want to go back and take?
Yeah, we
public
can go
comment?
back. We'll take one more.
Okay. Gail Murtha,
Go ahead, Gail.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not very tech savvy. Certainly my concern is compassion for the animals. It's also a concern, health and safety concern for people when animals who are hurt and sick are wandering around and can be a danger to human beings as well. I really appreciate everything you're doing, but you know, it's an issue that there's a lot of different angles to the problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, no additional hands raised, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
did we want to clarify for the public commenter that the minutes from every meeting are actually published in the subsequent month's agenda, just to
Yeah,
clarify
that is, yeah, thank you. And I have a few comments when we get to on the consent calendar on the minutes, and we can maybe talk about that there.
Great.
So as far as that goes, let's move on to the consent agenda. And the first one is approve the minutes, and the second one is approve the meeting calendar for 2024. So as far as the minutes go, I just have a request. As I look at the minutes from the last meeting, and I think somebody from outside would look at that, and there's not a lot of detail. Like we have things where it just says update from Stephanie Amato on the shelter. But there's nothing as far as any kind of detail. If there would be some kind of a written summary that Stephanie could provide, and here's what she updated us on for each of those. I don't know if that's possible or not, but just it would be helpful, especially not only for myself. I know we can look at the recording of the whole meeting online, but the minutes themselves to have a little bit more information on those updates, especially. Is that something we can?
I would defer to the clerk as to, since they're the ones who prepare the minutes,
And I wouldn't want to ask the clerk's office to do it. I would say whoever's giving those updates, that if they could provide.
the individual.
A written update, just, you know, condensed, not the whole, all the details, but, you know, give an update on this and we've made this improvement or that, but not the entire thing.
I agree. It would probably be easier to read it and see what actually happened and what was said rather than having to refer to the recording. That's how we do the Board of Supervisors. We very simple minutes and then some of it's very detailed, but we can work with the department and certainly ask them if they can provide us some written comments so we can include those in the minutes, and hopefully that won't strain our office too much, but it will also provide information to the public.
Right.
So we'll definitely work on that.
Okay.
Do you want us to make those updates to the August 17th minutes as well, or are you asking to go back?
I would say just moving forward.
Moving forward? Okay.
Future meetings.
Okay,
We can do that.
that is definitely work.
I don't want to put too much work on your office. I know you're already busy, but it would be helpful. I think, for the community.
I agree. I think it's well asked and
Yes.
we'll get.
I do want to mention that the meeting that are currently scheduled, I did try to provide some information that it overlaps with another board meeting that I'm a member of. So it's the third Thursday, which I looked at. These are mainly all the third Thursday.
Every other month.
Every is the third.
Yeah,
board
we
meeting.
meet every other month, so 6 times a year. So it's still the same thing, yeah. I
Yeah.
understand. So,
So that's why I think this was rescheduled for this day. So on that. I was out of town.
I think it was rescheduled because we wanted to give another week to West Sac to be able to hear it on your
That
Tempe
too.
council meeting was
Yeah.
why we moved this one forward a week. That was my understanding.
I would just note on the meeting calendar, item number 6, these dates are just a suggested date, so I could get something calendared for next year, get rooms reserved, but if the body would like to suggest a different meeting schedule or as it notes in the agenda item, meetings can be moved at any time by request of a member and consent of the chair. So if you were to set this meeting calendar and then in the future decide to update that meeting calendar to second Thursday or third Wednesday or whatever change the body would like to make as new members come on, we can make that change in the future.
And that's something we can consider at a future meeting.
Okay.
We can discuss it more as an agenda item. As
And
far as consent, I think this proposed calendar. should be fine.
And then staff would like to note there was a typo on the agenda item, so if April 10th should read April 18th. So if you're going to pass this item, if you could pass it with that revision, that would be April 18th.
Can we, can we pull that item and just change the date of the next meeting? So the West Sacramento representative can attend?
Yeah, so you know what, there's 2 items on the consent agenda, right? So we could probably just take them both individually then.
Okay. But we'll first just do the minutes from the August 17th meeting. Are there any public comments on those minutes? Any online? Seeing none,
There are no hands raised, Chair.
thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call?
Member Neville,
Aye.
member Biasi,
Aye.
member Landsberg,
Aye.
member Provenza,
Aye.
motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, on the calendar. So you want to, by the Provenza, you're proposing to move that, postpone that for now, move it to our next meeting for discussion.
You can discuss it at this meeting if
We
you
can
want.
discuss it.
Yes.
So I think what it comes down to is when the majority of the members are available. Is there an alternate for WebDOT?
We weren't sure if we could appoint an alternate, and I can ask.
Is it, do you have a standing commitment every
I do,
third Thursday?
I do. I have an alternate for that one, but then we might as well just switch one of us out.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one's a pretty important one.
Well, is there, I know it take longer than the discussion today to do this, but I think that we're really lucky to have the mayor of West Sacramento here as a participant. If we could make the next meeting on a day that she can attend and then use that time for staff to coordinate everybody's schedule, then hopefully we could have a full attendance from all the cities.
So our next meeting for this calendar year is currently scheduled for December 21st. And that's something that I think might be hard for many of the members to be able to make, being at the holiday season. How does everybody feel about their being able to attend the 21st? Do you know yet, or should we hold off on that, picking that date?
Well, for Woodland, one of us can be here at all. It'll be either Myra or myself. But the third Thursday of the month, when we're meeting monthly as well as every other month, work best for the city of Woodland because of our other commitments. But we're willing to look at other city schedules to accommodate.
Would it make sense to have a meeting in November?
I can attend on the 21st. ACOG moved their meeting to a Monday because of the same reason.
Yeah.
That there would be people that wouldn't be able to attend the 21st.
And I can be here on the 21st as well. So it looks like we will have a meeting on the 21st, it sounds like.
And I can be here.
And I would agree on as far as having them on a third Thursday works well for City of Winters. We also have LAFCO meetings that are immediately prior to this meeting, and it works out good that we can come to the LAFCO meeting and to this. I'm on both of those and it works out well for me personally. But I do have an alternate that can come as well. And yeah, say if we pick another date, I think we might need to pull the whole committee to see if there are other dates that work better that agrees with what your schedule is.
Okay,
Do that.
that sounds fine. If you want to do that.
Find out your available dates first, and then we'll see if
Okay,
the rest of the committee can do that, because I think it's
That'd be-
important to have you here as
okay,
well.
that'd be good.
So what we'll do is table item 6 and we'll bring that back at the December 21st meeting then, it sounds like.
Okay.
We don't need a motion.
Right, that takes care of the consent calendar then. I'll move on to the regular agenda. Item number 7 is appoint the chair and appoint or reconfirm the vice chair. So our previous chair, as we all know, was Gary Sandy. And I'm filling in, since I'm vice chair, I'm serving as the temporary or acting chair right now. If I asked to put this on the agenda, that we formally go through and appoint a chair, a vice chair as needed. So is there any discussion on this, any nominations that anyone would like to put forward?
I would like to nominate Bill Biazzi for the city of Winters as chair.
I'll second.
I would like to nominate Supervisor Provenza.
I'm-
This works.
Any other nominations?
I have a question for Jim. Jim, are you gonna stay here or is Mary gonna be coming over?
Yeah, that was the question.
I'm not certain yet. I haven't had a chance to ask her that. I plan to still attend the meetings, but I think she has a conflict in the mornings. So, but I'll talk to her about that.
Okay,
Yeah, I was wondering as well if the board has decided whether you will be the voting member and she would be an alternate, or if that's been discussed yet.
That's the status right now because she took over all of Gary's appointments. But I need to talk to her about her schedule and whether she's able to do this.
So I put a nomination for Supervisor Provenza. Is there a second on that?
Wait a minute.
sounds like it.
See a second, so any other nominations?
I'm just proposing that we wait until we know whether Mary's coming over and see if she's interested in one of those positions.
I would,
Sensing that neither of you are particularly interested in sharing, and I understand that. completely, I know how that works.
yeah, I would definitely entertain that too. That I can continue to serve until we find out exactly what's going on with Supervisor Sandy. Go ahead and table that part of the agenda as well. Thank you. Nate. Okay, next item is to receive an update on the invitation to the city of West Sacramento to become a signatory to the Yolo Animal Services JPA. Good timing, welcome.
Take it, John.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. John Rowe, Management Analyst with the Yolo County Administrator's Office. The city of West Sacramento, at the August meeting, a vote was taken to extend an invitation to the city of West Sacramento to join the Yolo Animal Services Planning Agency, JPA. At their October 18th city council meeting, West Sacramento voted to join the JPA and appointed Mayor Guerrero to be their representative to the body. The next steps in this process is that we will need to officially amend the joint power authority agreement between the county and the cities to approve the addition of the new member. Our county council office is currently drafting an amendment, and once that amendment is complete. Once that document, that draft is complete, we're going to circulate that to all of the current members and make sure that everyone agrees on the proposed language. And then once the proposed language is agreed upon, each body can take it to their representative council or board for approval. Once we have a majority of the members approved, which is 3 out of the 4, then the West Sacramento will be officially on the body and can take their seat and practice voting authority at that time.
Excellent.
So we may be able to get that done in advance of the December meeting. That will depend on the timelines and schedules of the different council meetings. Worst case scenario would be the first meeting in 2024 would be the official start.
So you said we're working on putting together the language to amend it, and any timeline on when that might be ready?
It's with county council now. I don't know, Eric, if you have a specific timeline.
I'm not aware of the process, but I'll help Phil make sure it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the sooner we can do it, the better. That way that it can get to our respective councils and we can discuss it and have a vote on it there and hopefully move forward, make it official. Any other comments from the committee? Any public comments on it?
The faster the better.
Faster the better.
You can be vice chair, nobody.
Are there any online comments?
There are no hands raised, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So this is not.
Sorry. A hand, nope, she brought it down. Nope, she put it up. Hold on. Amy Hanna.
Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you again to Mayor Guerrero for accepting that invitation. It's huge. West Sacramento has a huge population of both people and animals that the whole surrounding areas have increased in population, obviously, since the shelter was built. So thank you again. Short and brief.
Thank you. Any others?
There are no additional hands raised.
Okay. And so there's no action on that today. We'll move on to the animal shelter update. I know Stephanie Amato is not present, but I think John has something.
Yeah, John Rowe, management analyst. Stephanie was not able to be here today, our shelter director. She did provide me some items to share with the body and with the public. Regarding spay and neuter at the animal shelter has been restricted to cat neuters only for now, as we're building up our team there. So most recently, about 15 shelter cats have gotten neutered there. The Yolo spay neuter group and SAC SPCA, we've been taking trap and release cats to those bodies. About 15 have gotten spayed and neutered via that service. Yolo Vet has been performing spay and neuters at varying costs, anywhere from $85 for a cat neuter to up to $500 for the spay of a pregnant dog. Obviously, a much more complex procedure. But they've been performing those procedures on owned animals. Looks like we have 10 cat neuters, 7 spays, and 2 dog spays so far. This is data from the last meeting of this body. And then the UCD Gorley Center has been working on some shelter animals. They've been doing dog neuters till now, so they've performed 24 dog neuters, and we expect 20 cat spays within the next week. They've just started to spay animals, spay cats. So we're starting to slowly make a dent in the backlog we have, but this is going to be an ongoing process for now. Brief facilities updates. There was a tree blocking the drain in front of the shelter. Removal for that is scheduled today. Improvements and upgrades to the fencing is currently out to bid. There were some security upgrades that were approved for the shelter, so new cameras have been installed. There are going to be some new locking mechanisms on the gates as well. These will permit the interior staff to, buzz people in and out, that sort of thing. As of right now, the facility is a little less secure than we'd like. There was a violent incident from last year that occurred. So we've been trying to get those security upgrades completed. HVAC for the dog building, is currently out for quote. So we should have quotes on the cost for the HVAC upgrade for the dog building soon. Shelter population is pretty large right now. There's about 120 animals, about 50 dogs available, a little over 20 available cats and kittens right now, about 120 animals total, including 2 horses that were found by CAL FIRE and are currently receiving care at UC Davis. So just a reminder that the shelter takes in a lot more than just cats and dogs. There's rabbits, chickens, horses, whatever we find in the community, we have to handle. We can't just leave those animals out there. And there are some staffing updates. There is a vacancy in the front office. Interviews will be beginning for that the next couple weeks. There is an officer position that just closed, so hopefully that will be staffed soon. And there is updates, the shelter veterinarian and the board just approved 3 positions for registered veterinary technicians at the shelter. So those positions should be posting soon, and we'll be reviewing candidates and applications to fill those positions in the near future. That's the entirety of the update that Stephanie provided. If there's any questions or comments from the body, I can pass those on to the shelter director.
So I think at the previous meeting, Stephanie had said that the new vet was about to start, and has that person on board now?
Alex?
Yeah, so we do have a consulting specialist veterinarian on staff as an extra help employee. The board approved a permanent position, I believe 2 meetings ago. We are getting that posted likely in a matter of days, and that will also be out for recruitment along with the registered vet techs. So we can finalize our vet services team.
As far as the spay neuter, I don't know if you know or not, of the numbers that you quoted in that update from Stephanie, how many of these were from the shelter here? Do you know how many cats, how many dogs?
So the UCD Gorley Center, the dogs and cat space that they're performing are all shelter animals. And then the limited number of cat neuters happening at the shelter right now with the limited staff we have, those are all shelter animals. There is a backlog, there's a wait list to get those done, but we are proceeding through that wait list as quickly as we can. Hopefully soon as we get our new full team on board, that process will speed up. And we do have an update further down the agenda on the spay neuter clinic that has been discussed in the past.
John, can I ask, just of those 50 dogs, were those all done in the month of October, September?
I was informed that all of these were since the last meeting and last update in August,
That was August.
dating from August to today.
Today?
Yeah,
Thank you.
So we're making some good progress.
we're making progress. Yes, question?
Yeah, I do. So thank you for the summary. What is the magnitude of this backlog? How long is that list? Can you refresh us on that?
We can get some clarification from Stephanie.
Other questions from?
There's a question from the audience.
Yes.
Excuse me, I'm not sure I understood. On the low cost spay and neuter services, has that been resurrected yet? Because it's been suspended, because I understand, the staffing issues, and so grateful for hiring the county's own vet, which we need desperately. So is there any prediction of when the low cost spay and neutering for the public would be resurrected? Because that's what's needed, as well as the status of the feral cat neutering.
Right. So right now the focus is on shelter animals, as we discussed. We do have an update on public spay neuter in collaboration with the Yolo spay neuter group for item 11.
For comments on the shelter itself. We're getting some improvements done. It's in process. That's good to hear. Any other public comments? Any online?
And at some point, I'd like to have a tour.
I think you can contact Stephanie Amato, and
Okay.
she's happy to she offered me a tour when we first started.
Oh, really?
Maybe which was earlier this year, and yeah, she's the director of the shelter there, and
Oh,
she'd
good.
be happy to give you a tour.
Maybe you can take home a horse.
They'll jump over me.
Great photo op.
Okay,
There are no hands raised, Chair, for this item.
thank you. Okay, next we have item 10, receive an update on the animal services transition.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This may be a little duplicative of what John just shared, but we want to give a general update as to kind of where we are in the full scope of this program. As you know, the board talked about transitioning animal services out of the sheriff's department. But we wanted to work through a couple a couple operational items before that. One was a renewal of our agreements with our jurisdictional partners for animal services in the community. I'm pleased to announce that we've all jurisdictions, so all the cities and UC Davis have approved their agreement with the county for animal services in the current fiscal year. So that's been resolved. We are building our vet team, as John shared. We have the board approved 1 vet position and 3 RVT positions. Those will be posted shortly, and we'll be recruiting as quickly as we can to get those positions filled. As John also noted, there's a variety of physical shelter improvements that are currently underway that we're continuing to work through as well. We're also in the process of hopefully bringing on a third-party licensing vendor to help us with some of our pet licensing. Right now, we do that all internally in-house. And we're looking to contract with a third-party platform that will be online. That'll hopefully streamline that process, make it a little more efficient, also make it easier, more convenient to license your pet, which is one of the major revenue sources for this program. So we hope to have that. We're working through our contract administration process with that, but we hope to have that in place shortly. And I believe those are all the major updates. Yeah, I think once we were able to move through some of those major items, then per what was approved by the board, we can begin more of the policy conversation about what the actual transition will look like and what policy options may be available for this program.
Questions or comments? Are you looking into, I know Supervisor Provenza brought it up at our last meeting as far as, sounds like we're making good progress on a short term, but what about a long term? Are we looking at any kind of a long-term change?
So I think, yeah, as we shared with the board when we began this process, we want to address the short term, and then once we have the short term in place and we have a high functioning, high performing program, then what does the long term look like? I think that makes that conversation a little bit simpler once we have some of those kind of foundational questions answered. So our focus has been on that for the time being.
I thought that we had actually talked in best that Supervisor Provenza talked about taking 2 parallel routes, that we would have a subcommittee and we would be looking at both options at the same time, or providing you with information about both options while you're focused on the immediate, just so that we're not extending the process. Is that no longer an option?
I mean, we can, staff is happy to consider, whatever direction from the board and from the JPA that there are in regards to any future options. The previous board direction though was to address the near-term operational questions and then focus on the policy conversation around a transition.
I think that might actually tie into the other agenda item number 12. We might be able to tie these 2 together long term as that's an item we can have more discussion on that.
And I think this JPA had wanted to have a dual track begin, and we had been working on long-term options for a shelter in the past. There's nothing preventing us, at least from taking the first steps and starting to do some work on options for the shelter in the future. One might be a whole new shelter. One might be expansion and improvements to the current shelter, but at least to get that process going while we fix the short-term problems. I think that was the preference, at least, of this group.
Yes, I think we can discuss that kind of dual tracked approach when we come back to the board in December on animal services and you share that with if it is the JPA's preference, share that preference with the board and go from there.
Perhaps we could put together an outline for you about what we've all talked about over time, since so many people have come in and out. I have all the old notes. I'd be happy to put that together to say, these are things we were thinking about. Here's some steps that we might be able to take to introduce you, because again, we didn't want to put it on the county's plate. I mean, there's a lot of people willing to provide information and options to not give you another job and then have you guys vet some of the things that we're talking about down the road. I'm happy to take that on.
Yeah, so I think we certainly,
Okay,
would.
and then maybe
have to
share it
look
with
at
Jim. Maybe you can just add anything if you think I've missed anything. I can work with you separately on that.
Well, I think having a subcommittee start to look at options makes sense. We can, in terms of fundraising and foundation grants, we actually have to have something on the table that we're advocating. We're not there yet, but the sooner we get there, the sooner we can start, because none of if we knew what we wanted today, I don't think the cities and the county would have the money for it. So it's a question of we may have some, and how do we supplement that with foundation grants and fundraising? And you can't do that until you have something that you've agreed you want to work toward. But the final decision on that will depend on, I think, that we're able on us being able to resolve the short-term issues too. That's why I refer to it as a dual track.
Right, and I don't think I was specifically focused on fundraising. I think we were just talking about those issues that we felt were important that we wanted to look at and address, not necessarily how we were going to pay for them. I think that was kind of the track I was taking. I agree. You don't know what you need till you know what you want to build. So that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. It makes sense for us to at least start looking at a long-term plan instead of waiting until we have the short-term all perfected, and we need to start a long-term plan in order to be able to get somewhere. I know this group has been together for 4 or 5 years now, and I think we're still talking about getting that done. So we are making progress on the short term, but I really think we need to move forward and start some work on the long-term plan. The comments? Audience? Anyone online?
No, Chair, sorry, no hands.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Alex. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next item, which is an update on the spay neuter clinic.
Yes, so we've been in discussion with the Yolo Spay Neuter group about setting up a spay neuter clinic for non-shelter animals in the community. We have a site identified. It is on our Health and Human Services campus, which is at 137 North Cottonwood in Woodland. We have a area in the back there that is correct size, good public access, to accommodate their RVs and other equipment that they would be using to perform these procedures in. We are currently working with the city of Woodland on addressing some water and wastewater utility hookups for that site. Those are in engineering with the city. In the interim, I have spoken with Amanda Hartman, who is the executive director of the group, to see if they can come on site on a kind of preliminary basis, since they are operating out of RVs. They don't necessarily need utility hookups to operate, even though that would be vastly preferred. I spoke with them about operating an interim measure without on-site utilities. She said that was feasible. She's speaking with, well, she thinks that's feasible. She's speaking with her team to kind of clarify that approach and make sure it is. But if they in fact can do that and they have the staff to begin, we would look to bring them online as soon as possible as we complete our utility upgrades to the site. Don't have any specific dates now, but it sounded like they were close to having all the pieces they needed in place to begin operation.
Questions? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, so I'm new to this group, so is that funded through
It's
the participation?
no, they're a nonprofit. There would be no fiscal participation from the county or other public agency, from my understanding. They just want a space to operate.
Great.
And in the past, Supervisor Sandy and I had dedicated some of our COVID release funds to this nonprofit for this purpose. So in that sense, there are some county funds that have been expended, but that's a one-time at this point.
Public comment? Yes.
And some of the members are new, just because I'm involved in that as well. And so you understand it's a mobile unit. It's not okay, so I'm not sure
It's a mobile unit.
It's a mobile unit and it's a nonprofit really put themselves out by purchasing it from another vet that was retiring, and so they're still paying off that loan. So they will be needing, some input with financing as well. But the point is, it's just that you understand, it's not a you call high volume. It has like 30 cages in it, so it's like, and it's a mobile unit. It's a separate unit that would be like a RV type thing that is required to be with it. So, but it will be welcomed, of course, but I didn't want you to misunderstand that it's going to be a high volume, but it would be, at least 30 animals, let's say in a day, that they could do that to house them. But and it may not be every day, but the county will need to help out that. So just that we don't think that that's going to take over and that the county shelter needs to be the primary location for low cost, especially, but both together will be great. But it's just I just wanted to clarify what it was for, but we're really looking forward to it being up and running soon. Thank you.
I think for clarification for myself too, though, even though we call it a mobile unit, it's not really meant for something that we're taking around community to community, because it needs all the services to hook up to. Is that right?
Yeah, they prefer to have utility hookups. That's optimal. The non-hookup option, I think, is an intermediary. Is kind of an intermediary step. I believe they may also have to have a identified location for state permitting and licensing for providing services. Yeah, I would have to defer to them as to how mobile they can be. But in my conversation with them, the focus has been on finding a location to operate from.
Currently,
whatever happened, what's happening or happened with that big unit that has been sitting, that trailer that's been sitting there for years, not being used, the Spain user trailer that.
Are we talking about at the county?
Yeah, the one that's been sitting there unused for a really long time.
In Backer Shelter.
Yeah.
Well, my understanding that is the spay and neuter location for the county.
Is it currently being used?
Is this the big fix rig?
Yeah, the big fix
That
rig.
is that's the primary surgical.
That's all we have.
Yes.
And just to reiterate, I didn't clarify, you're right. It's this mobile unit is not intended to move around. It's a big rig. It's like 40 feet long and it needs to be parked and stay somewhere. But that's why the beauty of what the county has come up with is it's come up with a beautiful, the perfect location. And it's like, where the other health stuff is. Because one thing I didn't mention earlier, just as a clinical microbiologist, I can tell you this is a health, welfare, and safety issue as well. Because leptospirosis, rabies, all that stuff, that can happen. And right now, because of El Nino and all that stuff, we're seeing more lepto. So we got to move this up on our priorities, because it's not just because it's animals, it can wait. So, but thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you. Any other comments? The online?
There are no hands raised, Chair.
Okay. More for that update, Alex. Next item we have is the consider approval of standing item on future agendas for soliciting input and recommendations for a local community-based organization.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, John Rowe, Management Analyst, the Yolo County Administrator's Office. At the August 7th meeting of this body, the question was raised if we could explore a more formal role for nonprofits to take with the JPA. In discussion with council, we can't formally seat any sort of nonprofit on this JPA, but what we would recommend would be to encourage nonprofits to develop their own standing work groups outside of this body that therefore would not be subject to any sort of specific Brown Act restrictions or anything like that. And then have a standing agenda item at the top of the regular agenda for those bodies to bring back comments, opinions, recommendations, or if maybe they were recommended at a meeting, an item came up for them to research, they could bring back information on that at the following meeting, etc. So that's the recommendation from staff for how to move forward and formalize the relationship between the JPA and local nonprofit entities.
So I think Lisa mentioned at the last meeting that she was formerly a liaison to the JPA. Is that anywhere formally in the paperwork, or how did that all
No, there's no mention of any nonprofit being a liaison in the agreement that formulated this JPA. It's when I went back and looked at the meetings, I didn't see anything formal that was established. Perhaps there was discussion behind the scenes that I'm privy to the materials of.
I think it was just how we all came together. It was because it was as the JPA was being formed and Unleashing the Possibilities was involved in the formation. We just were at the table, and we were asked at that time by the county to continue to behave in a liaison fashion. So we sat at the table, we reached out to the different cities to provide, to create relationships with the cities, and then we were there when they came to the table, but there was never any documentation.
Yeah.
It
In
was-
discussion with council,
That makes sense.
when looking at that, we were concerned about Brown Act implications.
Sure.
So we do not support moving forward with that approach. We do, of course, want to keep nonprofits engaged, and we think the model we developed here would let them have a voice that's heard by the full body and have some limited connection without violating the Brown Act or requiring Brown Act restrictions every time we have a discussion with local nonprofits about this.
And I think it would be very advantageous to the group. I mean, they have so many, trained professionals with experience with handling animals that we get as much input from them as we can and using them. I know we talked about gathering input from each city of what do we want to see in a shelter for a long term? What do we want to see in services? Maybe they could assist in somehow surveying each city, and finding out, okay, what do you want to see in a shelter in the future? What kind of services, that type of thing. That's why I think where a group like that could really fill in and help us to bring that information together so that county staff isn't having to do all the legwork on it. I think having them do some of that work and giving an update at each meeting, a standing update, would be a good addition to our group. Other thoughts?
So you're, just so I understand, we're really talking about maybe an advisory committee with all the interested groups so that they could have their own meetings and then agree on recommendations or agree on input at our meeting. Is that kind of the structure you had in mind?
I don't think it would be a formal advisory committees. I believe that would be subject to the Brown Act.
It would be, yeah.
And I think we were thinking more of an ad hoc fashion where, there'd be a liaison from the nonprofits groups who could come, speak at the meeting, have an item on the agenda to discuss, anything germane and in the purview of this body, and partake in the discussion in that fashion, but not create any sort of formal body to avoid any Brown Act implications for the nonprofit groups.
Yeah, that makes sense, Alex. So for example, Jim, maybe we would say Unleashing the Possibilities, or forget Unleashing the Possibilities. Some organization would say, we would like to go out and create a survey that we share either through the media or whatever with these cities, and we will come back and report upon the findings at, the December meeting. Is that, so it would be an item that we would get buy-in from the committee, because we don't want to do something that you guys wouldn't approve of. And then we would bring back that information and say, this is what we found. I'd like it to be organized in a fashion that it's, that we can reflect how we acquired that information and where it was acquired so that it's relevant. And you guys can actually see, so that it's not opinion, so that it's objective as opposed to subjective, and then we would present it. So it could be relatively simple. Maybe, I can work with John or Alex on how we did that.
And so this would be open to any of the nonprofits or groups that are interested in this issue. Yeah. And if it was, I always try to anticipate problems and there probably won't be any, but if there was disagreement among the groups, then we might need to look at a different approach. And I know other committees have Brown Act advisory committees, a number of, like the Yolo Habitat Conservancy has an advisory committee plus a board. I'm not saying that we should do that now, but we need to make sure that everybody's voice is heard So if we run into any problems, we may have to consider the advisory committee approach.
I think we always have that option. I think, the option that's described in the staff report, I think is probably the easiest to implement with the fewest kind of procedural or bureaucratic barriers. If for whatever reason that method doesn't work, we can consider a more formal option, as you described, Supervisor.
Yeah, that's fine. I think we'll just, let's see how this works. Probably will work well, and we can go forward.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the proposal. And as someone who spent decades advising clients on the Brown Act, I can really appreciate why we don't want to formally establish an advisory committee. I think it would actually make things more difficult and really put impediments in place for the interested individuals. So I like the approach you've come up with. Also, Supervisor Prevents, I completely appreciate your concern about making sure it's open to all, because I've seen this before where if you give a nonprofit, one or more nonprofits, a standing item on the agenda, sometimes another nonprofit comes forward and says, where's my opportunity? So we do have to keep that in mind as we go forward. But I think this is a really good approach for starting out. And again, I know it's not within the scope of our agenda today to give any guidance to the individuals, but I think it's a great approach. Just giving them a standing item on the agenda makes a lot of sense.
So would that be giving a standing item to any nonprofit that requests to speak?
Well, you have it structured a particular way here. I think.
Yeah, the specific wording, yes, the agenda item would be open. We would encourage the local nonprofits with interest in animal services to form their own working group that would have some sort of unified voice, but obviously we can't formally enforce that. If there was a split and multiple groups wanted to come forward with multiple comments, this agenda item would presumably be open to all of them, at the discretion of the chair.
Just to provide a little background, before we all started, we actually at Unleashing the Possibilities did a survey we tried to encompass every nonprofit. We sent out surveys and emails to everybody in the area with whatever their focus was, and said, this is a concern of ours for these cities. We'd love your input. And we actually got back about, I want to say 1,500 surveys. This was right before COVID. So our focus was, how do we engage all of the nonprofits in the county, regardless of what their focus is, to have a voice in what we're doing and to give us feedback. We asked them questions like, what's your experience working with animal services, and what would you like to see, and what are the barriers right now, so that we could bring all that to the table. So we already have that list, and I would be happy to reinvigorate that process again. I think having as many voices and experiences is best in each of the cities, because they're very different. Does that make sense? That sounds like what you're asking.
I was just gonna say, I think that's an informal approach as we go. There are other nonprofits that want to have input. I'm on board too, but I think what you come up with is perfectly acceptable and a good idea, because this way there's no competition between the nonprofits wanting to have input, and we can collect whatever information we can from the other nonprofits as well. But let's keep the dialogue open, and let's not create any problems for you guys in terms of getting things done or having any legal issues. So I think this approach is great. It works.
Thank you. Yeah, I think keeping it to local community organizations, we don't want start receiving input from all kinds of other agencies outside telling us what they think we need. Keeping it local.
Yeah, the recommendation does specify local nonprofit entities.
And when we say local, we're talking Yolo County.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did you say local nonprofits or local nonprofit?
Local nonprofit entities.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Question?
No comment. Just want to say I agree with, Donna who referenced that, if you did establish the advisory group, the Brown Act, because I do see quite a few people constantly communicating one way or another. And and yet their input is valuable, given that they've been working for years, dedicated to improving, you know, the animal services countywide and in our city, in West Sacramento as well. We have some members who are participating, and look forward to their contribution to the JPA, because I think that helps in, you know, what we've talked about in other agenda items, having the dual approach, long-term and short-term. And I hear both, you know, being requested to get addressed here. So having their input, and then I have a question though. During the course of the discussion, in the other agenda items, I do see that they are contributing input. Is that, so they will be a part of the agenda in the beginning, but during the course of the agenda, I gather this is the norm that this happens.
The ability of people to give input is at the discretion of the chair, and how
I
we would like to organize the meeting.
And I think as long as we stay within our time and, you know, it's not getting to where we're overrun by people providing comments, I think it's very valuable for us to
Yes.
hear from people that are out there doing the work and
Okay.
and have the experience. I think that's important. I don't want to make this too formal that we can't take their comments while we're discussing it, because I think it's important to hear from them. They have the experience and the history that they've worked on it longer than most of us here have. So
Yeah.
I think it's important to hear from them during the meeting as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any comment? By the Provenza?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Any other comments from you on this?
Oh, no, thank you. I'm fine with this.
See, public comments online.
Yes, we have Evelyn Dell.
Okay, Evelyn, go ahead.
Hi, I just want to say thank you. It looks like things are moving forward nicely, and I'm quite encouraged. So just wanted to let you know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any others online?
There are no additional hands raised, Chair.
Thank you. No more in the audience? Okay, then I believe we need to take some action on this. If someone would like to make a motion.
I would move the staff recommendation.
Second. We have a motion and a second. We have a roll call, please.
Member Neville,
Aye.
member Piazzi,
Aye.
member Landsberg.
Aye.
And member Provenza.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, that was our last regular agenda item. Next meeting is scheduled for December 21st. Hopefully that will be a date that works for everybody. We'll be doing some checking prior to the meeting to make sure that we have enough. It sounds like we will have a quorum for that meeting, so. On that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Sir.
Yeah.
Thanks for.
Thank you, guys. I know you've been working really hard. We really appreciate it.
Certainly, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for participating. It took us a long time to get. Thanks, Bill. Hey, I found a